Good Wednesday morning. And today is November 8th, which is the eve of Constance and my 56th wedding anniversary. And as we said yesterday, it's the fiberglass. It's not emerald or diamond or golden. It's the fiberglass. And we'll be celebrating with a few friends tomorrow. We're going to have a little dinner with the good folks at 418 Lodge, which is here in Sacramento, or 418 Oasis, actually, at the moment. And it was started as 418 Lodge by Phyllis Seckler, who was my magical mentor for many years. And when she was married and still with Grady McMurtry, the Hymenaeus Alpha 777, they together, in the comfort of her temple garage in Dublin, California, initiated me into the OTO, into the Minerval degree and the first degree at their home there. And that was just prior to the OTO being organized and I guess incorporated as a California entity, and before there was a Grand Lodge of the OTO, and certainly before there was an international Grand Lodge. So that was back in 1975. But I digress. Okay. But anyway, it's a thrill, and it's an honor to be associated with her OTO body. When she separated and divorced, she moved to Oroville, California, and was chartered the 418 Lodge. Of course, by then I was chartered the Haru Raha Lodge down in Newport Beach, California, Costa Mesa. And that's that. But anyway, for the first few very important years, I was under her kind of direct and formal tutelage as far as the AA type work was concerned, and as far as the OTO work was concerned, I was focused and very active with Grady's Thelema Grand Lodge. So Constance and I, for a few awkward years, had to walk a tightrope between those two luminaries of Thelema. So that's why I have, I guess, sort of a broad approach to everything. But be that as it may, I want to talk about magical weapons today. Okay, now this is a card from our Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, and it's the Magus card, and it's sort of my homage to Aleister Crowley as a magician, and it's taken from a very famous photograph of Crowley making that gesture. That's where he looks sort of like Paul McCartney, I thought. But anyway, I'm just going to have a little short talk today because I have to get ready for guests arriving tomorrow, and I got to work on the book. So anyway, what are the magical weapons really? And I'm taking this from my my book, which is currently out of print, but hopefully we'll be back in print with another publisher soon. Homemade Magic: The Musings and Mischief of a Do-It-Yourself Magician. And there's our family portrait. This is probably from Jean-Paul is probably uh, 4 years old or something like that, three years old maybe. So that would be 1970, around 1975 when I joined the OTO, and Constance and I were, so it was around then. So there's Lon and Constance and Jean-Paul and our adorable, sweet little first pet, Shep, our little sort of cockapoo Shep. And that's sort of Jean-Paul's older brother for a while. Isn't he adorable? Isn't she beautiful? Isn't he confused, clueless? And the dog knows it too. Okay. This is just full of digressions, I guess. What are the magical weapons really? With the wand he createth, with the cup preserveth he, with the dagger destroyeth he, with the coin redeemeth he. The tarot card, the Magician, represents, among many other things, the alchemical element of Mercury. There we go. And the planetary sphere of Mercury, too. The planetary sphere of Mercury, the Roman god Mercury, the Greek god Hermes, and Thoth, the Egyptian god of magic. The classic image on the card shows the magician holding a wand high above his head with his right hand, while he points downward with his left hand. Before him is an altar or table upon which rest the four primary weapons of the magician. Now, I've sort of, in order for me to utilize that image of Crowley, so we've got the stele there, which we could just call the disc. And we've got the wand in his hand, so it's a little bit different here. But here's the primary weapons. The disc. Okay, that's what I'm thinking is going to be the disc. Representing the element earth, the material plane, the body. The sword. There's the sword. And that's sort of an image of my Masonic commandery sword that I have that sort of looks just like it. The sword representing the element air, the world of ideas, the mind and imagination. The cup representing the element of water, the world of the soul, intuition, the heart, and the emotions. And the lance. That's going to be or wand, representing the element of fire, the world of pure will, the universal life force of the cosmos. Now, in the Tarot Ceremonial Magic, that's all. Those four weapons are also represented by the aces: Ace of Wands, Ace of Cups, Ace of Swords. There's a better view of that sword. and the Ace of Discs or Pentacles. And that's my personal pentacle. That's the one that's on display at the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic in Cleveland. Magical weapons don't come ready-made. They have to be homemade or obtained and consecrated in a very personal and special manner. The traditional books of magic go to great lengths detailing precisely how to fashion each of these magical tools. And I've known quite a few magicians over the years who did a pretty good job following these ancient recipes and made absolutely beautiful magical tools. But I'm a pretty lazy guy and not at all handy, so I figure that just doing the best I can is, well, doing the best I can. My homemade magical weapons have served me well over the years, and as far as I'm concerned, they contain as much or more magical virtue than if they were actually Parsifal's lance, the Holy Grail, Excalibur, and the plate Jesus used to pass around canapes at the Last Supper. Lazy or not, we should all take the greatest interest in what our magical weapons are and how they go about, and how do we go about bringing them into our lives. These simple objects represent all aspects of consciousness and being. And by that I mean your consciousness and the consciousness of the entire cosmos, organized into 4 broad categories. The Kabbalists identify each of these 4 groupings with a letter from the great name Yod He Vav He. You're getting tired, I'm sure, of me beating this into your head. But here I go again. And one of the principal names of God found in the Old Testament, Yod He Vav He, commonly pronounced or mispronounced Jehovah. Hebrew is written from right to left, okay? I'm not going to delve deeply into Kabbalistic matters in this book, but I do want you to remember that according to tradition, these 4 broad categories include the magician's will, okay, let's see, the magician's heart, Hey, so will, Yod, heart, Hey. The magician's mind, Vav, and the magician's body, Hey. And that the 4 tools or weapons of the magician represent these aspects of the magician's own being. They are solid, tangible, and objective articles, objects you can touch, pick up, wave about, even taste. But they represent tangible, but very real, inward, subjective forces, powers, and principles, things most people can't identify, let alone touch with their hands and fingers. According to Kabbalistic tradition, humans are made in the image of deity. Therefore, the human soul is the miniature or microcosmic reflection of the divine or macrocosmic world. And I'm using those terms in a very broad and generic way. We could probably say technically the macrocosm is on the tree of life would be Sephiroth, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 3 is even special. And then the microcosm is number 10. Okay, but that's a more specific Kabbalistic way of looking at things. So remember, this is a very broad statement. Both the macrocosm and the microcosm are divided into four categories. Four macrocosmic worlds that are reflected in four microcosmic parts of the human soul. So that's why we have four Kabbalistic worlds that are reflective of Yod He Vav He, Atzilith, Braya, Yetzirah, and Asaya. And we've got four parts of the soul that are reflections of those four worlds. We've got the Chai, or life force. The Yekida is also part of that, and the Ruach, or the Neshama, the soul intuition, the Ruach, or the intellect, and the Nepish, which is our body, or the animal soul. The concept of these magical worlds of the soul are neatly wrapped up into four little bundles and turned into actual objects that are the four weapons of the magician. Yod, the wand. The Yod is Godhead itself. Well, at least in the macrocosm. In the microcosm, Yod is the essence of the universal life force within each of us. Yod's magical weapon is the wand. No matter what material object you eventually use for your wand, you must have a spiritual connection to it. It must be as magically precious to you as if it had been personally placed in your hand by the Supreme Being itself. So that's the wand. The hay, the cup. In the macrocosm, or in the big way of looking at things, hay is the archangelic world of titanic fundamental forces of nature. In the microcosm, hay is the transcendent soul intuition within each of us. Hay's magical weapon is the cup. No matter what material object you eventually use for your cup, you must have a spiritual connection to it. It must be as magically precious to you as if it had been personally placed in your heart by a loving and breathtakingly beautiful archangel. Vav, the sword. In the macrocosm, Vav is the angelic world. So the first hay is the archangelic world, and the archangel has angels working for him. And those are Vav, the sword, the Ruach. In the macrocosm, I'll say it again, Vav is the angelic world of specific mechanical operations of nature. In the microcosm, Vav is our intellectual and reasoning process. Vav's magical weapon is the sword or dagger, and no matter what material object you eventually use for your sword, you must have a spiritual connection to it. It must be as magically precious to you as if it had been personally placed in your hands by a brilliant, beautiful, and fierce angel. And finally, the disc or pentacle. In the macrocosm, the final hay is the material universe itself. Matter and energy is manifested in the space-time dimension as we perceive as reality. In the microcosm, the final hay includes our physical bodies. The final hay's magical weapon is the disc or pentacle, and no matter what material object you eventually use for your disc, you must have a spiritual connection to it. It must be as magically precious to you as if it had been personally placed in your hands by your own mother and father, idealized to perfection, of course. So that's my comments on those weapons and their Kabbalistic uh, associations, I guess could say. And that's it for today. That's it for today. It's very short. We went really long yesterday out in the parking lot, and today we're expecting the plumber to arrive to take care of our plumbing issues. Until tomorrow, our anniversary. Please don't send. Don't. You can just wish us happy anniversary. You don't have to send hundreds and hundreds of dollars through our PayPal account, which is just easily. It would be appreciated, but please don't. We'll get by. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.